Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I cover the topics of questions that I come up with that my clients have. Some of the most popular questions. Sorry, I was just adjusting there. Yeah, it's a great way to get the information out there. I think because there's a lot of misinformation about how to be healthy and what that entails, because I hear it every day, no joke. Some of the weirdest questions. Now, of course, no question is a dumb question, because I'd rather answer it and have people understand how things really work. So that's why I do this. It's free information, guys. It's free education. I'm just trying to share the information because my goal for you is for you to be happy. I want you to live healthy ever after, right? That's what it is. And of course, you know me. If you've listened to me at all, you know I fully believe in the living a healthy lifestyle. This is not an overnight success kind of a gig. It really takes time to get used to this. And this is a really great topic tonight. I giggle, and the only reason I bring it up is because, of course, I even have kids that struggle to get their vegetables in. And I remember being a kid and really going, once you have fruit, why do you want vegetables? Fruit tastes better. And I just remember as a kid, we learned that's when ranch came out. I'm totally dating myself right now. I just remember when ranch dressing came out, and we were taught to dip our veggies in the ranch dressing. And meanwhile, that's not the worst way to eat your veggies, but it's not the best way either, just because, of course, now you're kind of adding insult to injury. Most dressings actually just have way too much sugar. We're not even talking fat, guys. We're talking sugar. So let's talk about whether or not it's okay to skip your veggies. I get it. I get that a lot of us don't like it. I think part of it is, most of us either don't grow up with it. I really think it's a travesty at this point in our nation that nobody learns to cook. It's really, I think, one of the biggest issues towards the health problems that we have, including obesity, insulin resistance. There's a huge disconnect there where, how many people eat the majority of their meals out of the home. And that can be, a very, really just an overall unhealthy situation, primarily because, most people are eating fast food, and we all know that fast food and processed food is not our best option. It's brought with it a lot of problems in its wake, such as obesity, and all of the things that come with it. So why is it important to eat your vegetables? Well, let's talk about why it's important, and let's talk about how, because I know that it's difficult, especially if you're not used to it. The biggest one I've heard people say is, I just don't like the taste. Well, of course you don't. If you're eating a bunch of junk food and highly processed garbage from the grocery store, there are scientists that are doing that on purpose, guys. They make it, the word is hyper palatable. They make it so that it tastes so good that you want to keep coming back for more. And the one that I use the most as an example basically is Doritos. And I'm not gonna lie, I love Doritos. I love ranch Doritos. I remember eating those when I was in junior high. Actually, they made me sick at one point, so I stopped eating them. But those are specifically designed so that the flavor is so good that you want to keep coming back. They actually call it a bliss point. It's that you keep coming back for more, but it's not too much. If you've ever had a dessert that was just too sweet or too rich, I have a sweet tooth, and I've still had that situation. That's past the bliss point. It no longer tastes good. It's just too much. So they've designed it specifically so that you want to keep coming back and coming back. That's why we continue to buy those products. Hyper palatable. Google it. It's designed that way. And once you start eating a lot of crappy food, right? Processed food, junk food, fast food, your taste buds adapt to that. So of course you're not going to like vegetables. You want those hyper palatable flavors, and it almost deadens our ability to enjoy vegetables. So, thanks, Leanna. Yeah, I had my hair did this morning. So it's really important that if you don't like vegetables, if you don't like the flavor of vegetables, it's something that you're going to have to work on. Just like every other habit that you're going to have to change, you're going to have to work on learning to retrain your taste buds. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So let's really talk a little bit more about vegetables in general, the benefits of them. I don't know anybody who thinks, hey, vegetables are horrible bad for your health, because of course they're not. Our bodies were designed to eat them. And if you look at, again, and I'm just using us as Americans as an example, but I know a lot of countries are kind of following suit that most Americans are deficient in nutrients, because most of us don't eat for the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, and the things that our body needs from them, including energy. We solely eat because, number one, we eat food, right? And number two, we think calories over nutrients and macronutrients. And that's such a problem, only because And I get that there's times where it's important to look at food as things other than fuel and nutrients. But if you really get down to the basics, that's what we use it for. We need it. We do need it for energy, but we need it for the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals that do good for our body. So there's huge benefits to making sure that we get our vegetables in because they are so nutrient dense. They're also very, very low calorie. Now, of course, I'm not a big fan necessarily of counting calories because your body does different things with the different macronutrients. So you can't just say, well, I only eat 1,400 calories. Because if that 1,400 calories is sugar and crap, you're still gonna gain weight. But they are very nutrient dense, and most vegetables and a lot of fruits too have a good amount of fiber, which actually negates a lot of the natural sugars, the carbohydrates in the vegetables. It slows down the absorption rate in your system. Now, that being said, that's kind of where net carbs came from. Not a fan of that word because I find it to be total BS, especially when it comes to processed food. They can put in there that it's like blah, blah net carbs, but because it's synthetic fiber and synthetic nutrients built into that, it doesn't work the same. Your body doesn't treat synthetic things as the same as it treats food. Your body wasn't designed to eat synthetics. It just wasn't. So it makes a big difference. So one of the other benefits besides it being so nutrient dense, and like I said, it depends on what you're choosing, but we're talking about all your vitamins and minerals that help your body be as efficient as it possibly can. If you feel like crap, you're probably deficient in something, right? If you crave something, you're probably deficient in something that product would contain. Like if you crave chocolate, you may very well be deficient in magnesium. Now, you don't have to eat the chocolate to get the magnesium. You can actually eat something that contains it and it works just as well, or works better. But I digress. I love chocolate, so can't say too much against that. But the benefits of vegetables, like I said, they're very low calorie, they're very, very nutrient dense, but they actually keep you fairly full and satiated. When I know that I'm truly physically hungry, when I can eat a vegetable and it will help take care of it. If it has to be comfort food, I know that I'm hungry and I'm not hungry. And there's a big difference between that because of course comfort food is more of a craving or a mental hunger. It's not a physical hunger. It doesn't mean you actually need something. You're using it to replace something, usually a feeling. You want that release of dopamine, that kind of thing. So let's talk about fiber. There's a huge benefit to fiber, and I would say probably the majority of Americans aren't getting enough fiber either. Now, there's two types of fiber. This is actually considered a starch or a carbohydrate, but it's not in the same realm as, say, eating sugar. It's just a different tool because it actually works within your body to keep things regular. And yes, we're going to talk about TMI here. There's two types of fiber. There's soluble fiber, which actually helps your body to it makes it so that everything goes through you nice so that you're not constipated. And then there's insoluble fiber that actually helps bulk up your stool so that it's not diarrhea. And yes, I know that's more information than you wanted to know. However, if you're missing out on those fibers, it's not even just that. Actually, the more fiber that product has, whether it's a vegetable or even a fruit, the slower that the sugars will actually get into your system and into your bloodstream. So the fiber really does slow down the absorption rate of the sugars in your bloodstream when it's whole food. Again, don't go buy a protein bar that says blah, blah, net carbs and expect me to believe you that it's not giving you all the carbs. Because again, it's a processed food. You can't look at it the same as whole food. The other benefit of vegetables is that it helps fight disease because it's so nutrient rich and so dense in antioxidants. There's literally no downside to eating vegetables. Now, I've gotten questions about lectins. I understand that lectins are a plant's way of protecting itself. And yes, there are some products that have that. That's a topic for another time. But just know that the benefits of eating vegetables are going to outweigh most of what we're talking about there. And on lectins, it only affects certain people. And you can do a little more research on that and see what we're talking about. But, I think everybody tries to find a way to say, well, you know what, vegetables are bad, right? Because they contain lectins. Oh, get over it. You're not going to convince me that you shouldn't be eating vegetables. Now, I'm going to help you to find ways to do that in just a second. But, eating your vegetables helps so many things. I mean, like I said, it helps fight disease, helps fight and avoid cancer, helps reduce blood pressure. So there's no downside to it. And it really does help your body run at its very best. And that's what I'm looking for. I want to feel good. I want to have energy. I also, for those of you who are trying to lose weight, now I'm not saying that you should strictly eat just vegetables because, I find that stupid. Low calorie diets don't work, but, your body needs to be efficient in order to do what you're asking it to do, which is to burn fat. That's why I like fat loss better than weight loss. If you're asking your body to do that, you really need to give it what it needs in order for your metabolism to run as high as it possibly can. And so if you're avoiding all of those, I find it really fascinating, and I've said this before, and some people kind of look at me like I have two heads, but people who are overweight and obese are actually malnourished, primarily because they are eating too many of the wrong foods and they're not getting the right nutrients, if that makes sense. So, as an overweight woman, I was actually probably super malnourished because I wasn't getting all the vitamins and minerals I needed. I was eating highly processed food. Now, I can hear some people in the background going, well, don't they add those things to cereals and stuff? Again, now we're talking about the synthetic form of that, and your body does not utilize that the same as it does through actual food. So, plus, most of those have too much sugar. So now you kind of just negate the whole benefit of it anyway. So let me give you some tips. First of all, you know what? Don't try to change everything all at once. I talk about this a lot, but you're not going to don't go vegetarian if you really hate vegetables. You're going to really struggle with it. Start with 1 or 2 vegetables. I read somewhere on like Nerd Science or something like that. He said, start with a gateway vegetable. Pick one that you like. I've had a couple of kids that have done that. They started with cucumbers and peppers because that was the only 2 things that they actually enjoyed. Way back when, it took me a while to enjoy certain foods. And so I started with the things that I really did like. I knew I liked lettuce. I knew I liked green peppers. That was about it. And eventually I added things like asparagus, and now I love tons. Okay. And I'm going to tell you how in just a second. So stop it. Don't tell me that, well, yeah, Melissa, you've been working on this a while. Well, I have, but I started where most people do, where I just really didn't care much for most vegetables. Now there's still a few I don't care much for, but Brussels sprouts, oh my gosh, if you know how to cook them well, yeah, they're amazing. So here's some ideas. First of all, try new things. You know what? Pinterest is just a wealth of ideas. Now, again, they don't all work out. I've tried a few things where I went, okay, they made this up and they don't know what they're talking about. But for the most part, I had not too long ago on Meals with Melissa, I had one of the best Brussels sprout recipes I've ever had, and my entire family would eat it. That's how you know that it works, is because your family will eat it. Now, that being said, just because it's on Pinterest or just because it's using a vegetable doesn't always make it healthy. When you start adding a lot of creams and sauces that are heavy in sugar, and maybe even unhealthy fats, because those do exist, now you're kind of getting away from the benefit of eating the foods. Also too, I didn't talk about this, but different vegetables work well in different ways. Some vegetables, actually, you get more of the nutrients if you eat them raw. Some of them are better if you actually blanch or steam them, or, haven't cooked all the nutrients out of it. Some of them do need to be cooked a little bit longer in a different form. And sometimes they work better together with other vegetables. So again, if you're a nerd like me and you want to do some research, check it in. You can check that part out. But, start easy, start small, find a few things, try new recipes. Now, one of the things that I've really found interesting is that when I go to a really nice sit-down restaurant, now this doesn't work for fast food or for, the local joint, but if you go to a nicer restaurant and they have some sort of vegetable on the menu, again, use your better judgment here. If it's like, honey glazed with, all kinds of, again, kind of keep in mind that you don't want to add a bunch of sugars or extra stuff to it, but try it there. Maybe it's a vegetable you just don't know how to cook, and so try it where somebody else knows how to cook that food and make it good, right? That's not a bad option. Try some vegetables that a chef knows what to do with. That totally appeals to me. So might have to find another restaurant for that. Try a new option at a restaurant. Things that you can do at home, not hard. You throw them in soups, right? Again, this kind of comes back to, we got to learn to cook. You're really going to struggle. I know that there's a lot of food prep options out there, which is a step in the right direction. But even then, a lot of the options that I see on those, I'm just going, oh, good Lord, we're in trouble, because they're touting something as super healthy, which, again, may or may not be. It's kind of like getting something at the restaurant and you're not 100% sure what's in it. That's why you're supposed to ask lots of questions. But, learn to cook. It's not that hard. Open a recipe, open Pinterest. It takes me 2 seconds to try something new. And I'm not a great cook. I love to bake, but I'm not a great cook. So when I learn something or when I find a recipe, it has to be probably less than 5 steps for me to actually attempt it, because I don't do complicated. But be creative. So soups, omelet, man, I can throw some olive oil or avocado oil in my pan and you know, get some spinach in there and some onions and some mushrooms and some peppers. It's amazing. Yeah, I might throw a little cheese on there when I'm done because I'm low carb, high fat right now, but what a great way to get some vegetables. You can, there's recipes out there for making pizza crusts out of cauliflower. Again, I know that you can buy them from the grocery store. I know that you can buy it from the frozen section. You guys, that stuff tastes like cardboard. Not only that, it's still considered a processed food. Once in a while, that's okay, but that should not be your go-to because you guys, those contain so much sodium. Plus, there's things in it that help them to remain shelf stable, even though they're frozen. They're going to have more additives and preservatives than if you make it yourself. The benefit of making things yourself is you know what's in it, you know where it came from, and you know that it's going to work for you. That's the only reason I struggle to eat out in a healthy way sometimes. I know where I can't eat. I know what I have to do. I know what I have to ask. But it's a struggle sometimes to know that I'm completely, like if I get an omelet somewhere, I have to ask if it contains pancake powder in there because a lot of times they do to make them fluffier, and I do gluten-free. So you can make your own. You can make garlic mash instead of potatoes, especially, you know, if you're doing a little bit lower carb. Make zucchini noodles. You can make lasagna out of. Get a mandolin. You know, there's so many great options. Don't be afraid to try something new. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but at least you'll know one more way that you don't like it or one that you do. I try all these recipes for meals with Melissa, and then if my family likes them, I put them on this list of we will make this again. And there's multiple things that I've done over and over again because they work so well. You can also make a smoothie. You know, throw some green vegetables in there. If you're throwing berries to cover that flavor, and then maybe some protein powder in there or some Greek yogurt, you won't taste the greens in there. I also like to use powdered greens, and this is on top of the greens that I actually eat on a regular basis. But I do use a little bit of powdered greens. I know it's hard to see on there because of the lighting, but this is the one that I carry by Anabolic Design. I just like it. It tastes good. You can get some less expensive ones on Amazon, but make sure you put something in there to take over the flavor because a lot of those don't have flavor. This is berry flavor. They carry berry and chocolate, and they taste amazing, and there's a ton of things in them that we need. There's a ton of those nutrients. Now again, still remember that you're going to get your best options from food, but for people who really are struggling to get vegetables in, not a bad choice to start with until you can train your taste buds to like actual vegetables. So that's something that I use. The other thing that works at my house, now again, it's easy to go overboard on a lot of things, but this is one of my favorite alternatives. I don't currently use it just because, again, I'm not doing any sugar, and it contains a minute amount of sugar in it, but it's the Colonel Seasons Ranch popcorn seasoning. Man, this is how I learned to really enjoy green peppers and cucumbers, because cucumbers and I, we're kind of, but it tastes amazing. Now, again, be careful. Don't overdo it because it does contain a small amount of sugar, but it gives a little bit of flavor. And that way, I don't even use regular dressing anymore. Actually, I don't use this either. I use the honey mustard stuff used with stevia instead of honey. So, okay. So those are some ways that we utilize at our house. Make something into a lettuce wrap. If you're doing some sort of burger or like the chicken sausage that I just love. Actually, if you go to a restaurant, a lot of the places will now have options where you can actually put your hamburger in lettuce instead of a bun. And I've done that, I don't even know how many times the last probably year, because I love the burger or whatever it is that I'm eating. I just don't need the bun. I don't do gluten, so it works great for me. You can add extra veggies to a salad, gives it a different texture, tastes great. Or another great idea, why not grill them? Like make kebabs, or there's so many options. You can use spices, you can do all these other things. So don't just, you know, try something and go, okay, well, I just don't like that. There's so many different options. And if you struggle, maybe find somebody who is a good cook and who's used to this, and ask them for some ideas. That's a great way to go as well. You know, one of the best things I ever heard is if you're not super great at that, if you're not an expert at it, find somebody who is. Why wouldn't you? Makes it so much easier to deal with and not feel overwhelmed. So hopefully that helps. Now, hopefully I've kind of convinced you to at least try. Oh, really quick, as for juicing, the only problem with juicing vegetables and fruit is that you're missing out on the fiber, which again is what slows down the absorption rate of the sugars in your system, especially with fruit. That's a big one. But even with vegetables, you know, If you really struggle to do vegetables and it's the one thing that you'll do, again, a step is a step, progress is progress. I'm just not a huge fan of it, only because, again, I feel like you're removing part of the nutrients and the fiber that is available to you with that, and it's important. That part's important. So hopefully I helped you to enjoy, at least find a way to enjoy at least one vegetable. That's your challenge for the week. Just try something new. Find that one thing that works for you. You know, try something you've never tried before. Try jicama this week. That's a fascinating vegetable. It's a tuber. But anyway, there's a lot you can do out there. So hopefully that works for you. And you guys, I get my best ideas from you. So if you have any questions, you can either leave a comment below or you can message me directly on Facebook Messenger. I respond, guys, as long as you don't do something weird, because I've had a few of those. I love to answer questions. I'm just trying to help educate. Now, I don't know everything, but I'm working on that. So if I don't know, we'll find out together. That's the best part. So have an incredible week, you guys. I'm going to actually go try my recipe tonight for Meals with Melissa. That is Saturday morning, Pacific Standard Time. Just trying to come up with great ways to enjoy food that's healthier for you. So have a great one, you guys. Good night now.